Hey fellow Lyme warriors, so welcome to this week's workout. And normally we do a whole body workout, and with it being, 5 days until Christmas, I decided to do a mobility flow instead. You know, it's a super stressful time of year, especially for those of us with chronic illness. So I just wanted to maybe take this week and do a bit more of a gentle flow on our body, and just as a reminder that, you know, we need to check in with ourselves during this stressful time and these busy times of year. And so let's get into our mobility flow. So for today's mobility flow, the same rule applies just as if you're going into any workout. You need to make sure that you're not pushing through any pain. So you've heard me say it 1,000 times, whoever said no pain, no gain needs a damn hug. That's just not how we roll. So make sure that it is comfortable and you are meeting your body where it is. It's most important. And for today's mobility flow, you'll need to grab a broom or a mop. And what you're going to do is unscrew the bottom part, so you're just left with the dowel. And we're going to use that for today's workout. If you don't have a dowel, that's okay. You can still follow along without that. But if you do, fantastic. And let's get moving. All right, so to get started, I hope you found your broom handle. So I've just unscrewed the broom part here. So we're just left with the dowel. So we're gonna start on our tummy, and we're gonna focus on our thoracic spine. And that's that part of your spine. So you have your cervical spine, which is your neck. Your thoracic spine is your mid-back, right around where your bra line is. And then your lumbar is the lower part of your back. So we're going to get into that thoracic rotation. A lot of us tend to carry a lot of stress there, and especially with females wearing a bra, we tend to get really, really tight and stiff through there. So we're going to start on our tummies. We're going to have one hand at the end and then one hand here. So you want to have those hands just about shoulder width apart. And then from here, you're going to focus on keeping both hips on the floor as you rotate. So we're going to have our head down so it's nice in alignment, keeping this hand that's on the end on the floor. So it's going to look like this. And then coming back down. So I'm keeping my hip on the floor. I'm not letting it come off, right? So that is essentially cheating, and you're getting compensation from your lower back and not isolating your thoracic spine. And we want to isolate your thoracic spine. So here, rotating up and coming back down. So you should feel that stretch in that mid part of your back around that bra line. So I want you to exhale as you rotate up, and you inhale as you come back down. Doing your best to relax your neck and your shoulders, and really just focus on getting that rotation through that spine. Good. Once you've done 10 on that side, you'll switch hands. And then now this hand is at the end of the stick. And then we're going to rotate the other direction. So from here, head's nice and straight. Open up the other side, keeping that hip on the floor, and back down. You may notice that you have a difference from side to side. So for myself, I have more range of motion on this side than I do on the other. So if you do notice that, go ahead and do a few extra repetitions on the side that's feeling tight for you. So again, exhaling as you rotate up, inhaling as you come down. Awesome. And you can do 10 rotations there per side. All right, so the next one, we're going to get a little bit more into those shoulder blades and your shoulders. So what we're going to do here, still laying on our tummies, we're going to place our forehead on the floor, and then we're going to essentially do like an overhead press. So your hands are on the floor, forehead's on the floor. You're going to lift and then roll back. Come here, back down. So lift row. Lift and row it back. Now, depending on your range of motion, if you have really good range of motion, you'll be able to grip it closer. If your shoulders are an area of opportunity for you, you're going to want to hold this wider, right? So again, lifting up and rowing down. Up, bracing that belly, coming down. If you don't have the range of motion to row and you can only come to here, and if you can't get it high enough to clear your head, that's okay. So you just have to meet your body where it is, and that means today it might look like this. So you're here and you're just focusing on hovering and then back down. Just hover and then back down. And if that's where you are today, that is totally okay. So you can do 10 of these and then carry on to the next one. All right, so for this one, you're gonna come down into a kneeling position here. I want you to line your toe up with your knee. So they're directly in alignment here. If this is too much pressure on your knee, you can put a pillow underneath it to make it a bit more comfortable. And then from here, we're gonna bring this behind. Just rest it nicely on your shoulders or on the back of your neck. And you're just holding it nice and relaxed. There's not a lot of tension there. And then here, while we're stretching out our adductor, so the inside of our thigh, we're gonna go into a bit of a rotation. So think about driving your right elbow into your right hip. And I want you to go as far as you can. Coming back up, and same thing with your left elbow towards your left hip. If you can get here and you feel like you have more range of motion, bring that elbow in front of that hip and see how much further you can go down. What you do want to make sure here is that your back is nice and straight. You're not rounding forward. Keep it nice and straight, nice and tall, going side to side. So you can do 10 per side here. It's moving nice and slow. It's about quality, not quantity. So make sure you're feeling that stretch. And then once you've done 10, you can go ahead and switch legs. Again, lining that toe up with the knee so it's nice and straight. Bringing that left elbow to left hip. Right elbow to right hip. And if you can, go a little bit further on that side. I want you to try to exhale every time you go down. Inhale on the way back up. Feeling that stretch in the adductor on your thigh. And then getting some lateral stretching there for the spine. Good, and do 10 per side. All right, so for this next one, we're gonna work a little bit on the hips and we're gonna take them into internal rotation and external rotation. So we're gonna start on our right leg. So the dowel is gonna be in our right hand. We're gonna balance on our left leg, and then we're gonna place our knee against the dowel. So you wanna push into the dowel with your knee and then resist with your hands. You have a little bit of tension there. And what you wanna do here is dorsiflex your toes, which means pull those toes in nice and tight towards your shin. And then you're gonna leave your knee connected to the dowel while you lift your foot up and then back down. So we're isolating the head of that femur bone in the acetabulum, inside that hip joint, and we're pushing it into an external rotation. Nothing else in my trunk is moving. So I'm keeping that all nice and still. So you can see right now that my knee is fairly low down the dowel. That's where you can start. If that feels too easy, then you can start bringing your knee higher and try that external rotation there. Meet your body where it is and see how it feels. So you can do 10 on that side and then 10 on the other side. Now you're gonna balance on your right foot pressing your left leg into that dowel and lifting that foot, pulling those toes into your shin, into dorsiflexion, isolating that trunk, keeping it nice and solid, nice and still. You're only moving that femur bone. And then doing 10 on this side. Great, so now for the internal rotation, let's start on our right leg. So we're gonna balance on our left. We're gonna have 2 hands on the dowel now. This one's a little bit trickier. Line that dowel up with your knee. And now, without hiking this hip, we're gonna leave that locked down. You're going to pull those toes into your shin, into dorsiflexion, and then rotate that foot outwards. So this one's a little bit more challenging. The biggest thing you want to focus on is not letting this hip hike. So none of this. That is not isolating your hip. So keeping this nice and level, just pulling that foot away from that dowel. So now the head of that femur bone inside that hip socket is internally rotating. Good. Do 10 on this side, and then we'll switch. So holding that here, bouncing on the right leg, lifting that left knee, pulling the left toes into the shin, into dorsiflexion, keeping those hips nice and stable. Rotate that foot outwards. Moving that hip nice and controlled into that internal rotation. Keep your knee connected to that dowel. No hip hiking. That hip is staying nice and level. And do 10 on that side. All right, so now we're going to place this dowel behind our backs into this position here, okay? And we're just holding it nice and loose, nice and relaxed. Just make sure when you put the dowel here that you don't end up arching forward. Keep that neutral spine. So try to push your spine a little bit into that dowel. And from here, we're gonna place our hips, or our feet hip width apart, and then we're going to hinge forward. Okay, so I'm gonna show you this from the side so you can see what that looks like. So we're hinging forward. So from here, we're pushing our glutes, pushing our butt back towards the wall. So we are hinging forward. And then while we're down there, we're gonna add a little bit of a rotation through that spine. So hinging forward, pushing those glutes back. Now rotate to the side and the other side. Very slowly and gently, allowing that spine to rotate. You're keeping those legs completely still. You're not allowing them to bend to get a deeper stretch. You're really isolating that spine. So don't push that rotation. Meet your body where it is. And you can do a total of 20 here, so 10 per side. All right, so last one for today. We're gonna come down, sit on your bum, and I want you to do your best to come in this straddle position with having your knees, the back of your knees pressed into the floor. If you're up here a little bit, that's okay, start there, but know that your goal is to come back down here. So if they are up here, you got some really tight hamstrings and we need to work on that. So coming in this position here, you're going to place this dowel on your feet. And like I said, if you're here for now, that's okay. Meet your body where it is, and we will start where you are. So from here, I want no lazy feet. You're going to pull those toes nice and active into your shins. So dorsiflexing. So even just by doing that, you should feel a deeper stretch through that posterior chain. So no lazy feet, come up here. Now, your spine. When you're in this position, no rounding that spine. I have a nice flat back, sitting up as tall as I can. So you can see how my fingers just went to gripping the bar here versus like this, because this for me made me round my spine a little bit, and I don't want that. So sit up as tall as you can. And then from here, what we're going to do is lean forward and then coming back up. So what I'm doing here, I'm going to show you from the side, is not allowing my back to round. Okay, so from this position, I have my pelvis tucked back in a posterior tilt. I don't want you in an anterior tilt, which is tucking your pelvis forward. We are tucking it back a little bit. And then sitting up as tall as you can, so you can see my back is nice and flat. And then I'm driving my sternum so that my chest to the floor, or my belly button to the floor, and then back up. So you can see in this position for me, the range of motion is actually quite small, and that's okay. So my hamstrings are actually pretty tight today. So I'm meeting my body where it is, and I'm just getting that nice little stretch. Good, keeping that back as straight as you can. No rounding to get into it. If I want to round, I can come all the way down. But then that's coming from my back, not through my hamstrings. And that's what we're focusing on right now, is getting more range of motion through those hamstrings. So you can exhale as you come forward, exhale as you come back. Good. And you can do 10 to 20 in that position as well. All right, thank you so much for joining me in today's mobility flow. I hope it feels good. I hope you were able to find some areas of opportunity where you might need a little bit more work, and come back to this video to keep working on those areas that you thought felt really, really tight. And if anything came up during today's mobility flow that you weren't just quite sure on, or it didn't feel quite right, drop a comment and let me know, and I'd be happy to dive a little bit deeper into that with you. Otherwise, thank you for joining me today. I hope you feel good and enjoy your week. Make sure you spend some time for some self-care, relax, and let's make this week into Christmas as little stress as possible. So I'm sending you so much love, sending you so much strength, and we'll catch you in the next workout.